All right, so I kind of want to get on here and talk about motivation and kind of like uh, where I stand on, how much work you're really supposed to be putting into this craft and this career that we've been kind of talking about over the past couple episodes, I guess. I don't know. So one thing I strongly recommend immediately that I'm just gonna go cold turkey with it is essentially just stop using social media or stop using anything that's addicting, right? Now, the only real way, and this is kind of like, the only real way to stop one addiction is to kind of replace it with another, but you want to replace it with something good, like a good addiction, right? And so, like, let's say you were addicted to, I don't know, maybe smoking cigarettes or something like that. Then you maybe can change that addiction to maybe going to hit the gym, right? And so you replaced it with something better, right? And this is kind of the same thing. Like, let's pretend you have a hard time locking in and getting stuff done. Well, then you have to replace that addiction. You have to stop what you do that's bad or addicting, right? In this case, maybe doom scroll, whatever it may be, play video games, whatever you think that you do, and then replace it with something more productive, right? And that is kind of learning in CS in general. And so I strongly recommend just dropping anything like social media, gaming, or anything that just wastes time and doesn't actually bring any tangible results, right? Like anything that's improving your life, you should kind of just get rid of and then toss away. And so that's kind of what I did. I kind of cold turkeyed it and essentially just stopped everything because I would say like I was a bum kind of maybe I don't know in 2021 like before that I just played many video games and I never really got anything done, anything tangible in my life done, right? I definitely went to work like I wasn't like I guess fully a bum. I had motivations and I mean, I really wanted to get better in gaming, but like I said, it wasn't taking me anywhere. And so then that's when I kind of had the realization, like, what do I want to do? And so I transferred all my, I guess, addiction and motivation that I had with other stuff that wasn't really getting me anywhere. And then I transferred it to computer science. And so I strongly recommend doing the same, right? If you have some sort of addiction, like transfer it into something meaningful that brings tangible results, and that is like getting better at computer science. And so I'm saying all this, but how do I get better? Like, of course, it isn't fun at first, right? Like, how do you get better, right? Anyone in their rightful mind would say playing video games is absolutely more fun than, you know, like writing a software, right? And that is true, especially like the majority of people would say that is absolutely true. And I used to say that is absolutely true. My goals have kind of shifted a little bit. I actually think writing software is much more fun than playing video games or whatever that may be, or whatever your case may be for addiction. This can apply for anything, by the way, but I'm making it specific for computer science. But the primary reason of that is kind of just dopamine, right? How dopamine works, right? When you have something that, you know, brings a lot of dopamine down to the table, right? You can exhaust yourself with so much dopamine. For example, gaming produces a lot of dopamine. And therefore, when you go to something less like very boring, like reading a book, of course you would not want to read a book. A book doesn't produce that much dopamine, especially in such short amount of time. And so what you want to do is kill the main source that is providing so much dopamine and just goes through your dopamine capacity, if you want to say, if you will, right? And you want to just completely start in programming, even if it's boring, just keep going at it, right? Eventually, it's going to bring dopamine to you. Eventually, if you don't do the other addiction that you have, you'll start getting dopamine, and the only set of dopamine that you get is maybe, whatever you else you do throughout the day, and then plus that activity that you said you wanted to grind and lock in on, right? And so it's super important, like I said, you focus on the other thing because that is what's going to give you that steady dopamine instead of something as very addicting, right? Because if it's very addicting, it's because it probably leads to high amounts of dopamine, and that is why you struggle trying to get off of that. And again, I always make that analogy with people. You're gonna rather play video games than read a book. It's just plain simple. It works that way. So what do you want to eliminate? If reading a book is your goal, then eliminate gaming entirely and focus just on the reading. That way, maybe the comparison that you can make is reading a book or listening to music, right? Now, that dopamine is probably still, there's still a gap there, right? Listening to music is much, you get probably more dopamine than just reading a book. Absolutely. I get that. But the gap is starting to close, and you slowly get to a point where, you know what? Reading a book is probably more, you probably get more dopamine than just staring at a rock. Do you understand? So it's like that kind of distinction there. You'd rather read a book than just stare at a rock for the whole day. And so, yeah, so let's just talk about quickly, because I know I ranted a little bit. I want to talk about last 2 minutes or 4 minutes about what you could do to get yourself immersed in computer science. So this is more specific for computer science. And so one of the biggest things that I did is immediately I changed my YouTube feed. My YouTube feed was, like I said, primarily gaming and things like that, and just random BS. But I stopped, right? I essentially changed my feed into just being computer science. And I actually, dislike anything that comes up that is not computer science, right? I guess not dislike it. I don't actually dislike it, but I just like, I say, don't recommend me this anymore. And that way, when I'm on YouTube and maybe I am like exhausted of, building software all day, right? And I just kind of want to like relax and watch a video. At least the video that I'm watching is still immersing me in computer science. And so I'm still like in that realm of computer science. So that's one way. Pretty much just, in your YouTube feed, just wrap yourself around with what you want to do, right? And so that way you're always immersed, you're always learning something. Another big thing is it, kind of gets me to this is learning. I mean, I don't know why, but from all the people that I talk to, the fun kind of aspect of at least computer science in general is the fact that you're learning. Like you're learning so many new things, and it's fun, right? It's a fun thing because I think it kind of gets stale if you're just like doing the same shit over and over, repetitive. Like, of course, right? If you've already implemented this query in Mongo and you're doing the same thing and you've just been doing it over and over and over, it's gonna get boring. So I've learned that you kind of just want to learn. You want to keep learning. If you see something interesting, then go for it. And this brings me into the next topic too, which is go ahead and follow articles, like follow blogs or whatever it may be. I subscribe to let me go here, TLDR Tech. So I subscribe to these guys, and these guys give me all the articles that are out there that I just find interesting, and I go ahead and read them because this is like a way to learn and you know and just try to expand my domain a bit. And lastly, like I said, man, get rid of what you're addicted. Don't doom scroll. That's like the last thing. That's probably the most important thing. And just because of those dopamine hits and what you get. So you really want to focus on making this your number one thing you do on the daily. And eventually it's going to become a habit. And like I said, right now, I'd actually argue that, building software is much more fun than my previous addiction, right? And so it's yeah, like it's just that's how it kind of is. And so hopefully this kind of helped anyone. Let me know. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any takes on it. Yeah, thanks.